Hello and welcome to our ninth session where we are going to explore the Boolean operations of our modeling module, and we are going to explore this by building GolGumbaz. And as we build this, we will explore all the features of these Boolean operations and other modules in the model section. We are now going to start with a brand new project. Come into Epic Games Launcher and double click to launch it. In Unreal Engine library, you can come here and click on the launch button to launch Unreal Engine. Once Unreal Engine is launched, you can come into the Film, Video and Live Events tab, select blank module, and in your D Unreal Projects folder, I am now going to call my project as Golgombus and click Create. Now once it is launched, if it is asking project file is out of date, would you like to update it, you can click update. We are open with this main level or the map. I will come into the content drawer, and in the content folder I am going to right click and I am going to create a new folder, and I am going to call this as Golgombus. I will double click to open this. I will right click and I am going to create a new level, and I am going to call this level as Golgombus and press enter. I will double click to open this level, and when I try to open this, it will ask me to save to the hard disk. Click save selected, and now initially in my level there is no light. To add the default natural sunlight, I will come into window, environment light mixer, and now click on create skylight, create direction light, create sky atmosphere, create volumetric cloud and create height fog. Close this environment light mixer window, come into the outliner, right click, and I am going to create a new folder. I am going to call this as atmosphere. Now select direction light with shift press, select till this volumetric cloud. So all the 5 is selected. I will drag it and put it into this atmosphere folder and close it so that it is well organized. We are going to start building our Golgombus. Now here the very first area we are going to create will be this doom area, and to create this we are going to start with a sphere. I want to know the dimension. I have attached a file which contains the dimension of Golgombus. So if you open this, the total exterior dimension is around 51 meters, and out of this 44 meters is the external diameter of the main doom. We now have to create the same size doom. So coming into Unreal, we are now going to switch into the modeling mode, and I am going to come into sphere, and I am going to first start by creating a dynamic mesh. The diameter I need is 44 meters. Here we have the radius. Radius is half of diameter, so this will be 22. But here the unit is not meters, the unit is centimeters. So I have to convert meter into centimeter, means I have to multiply this by 100. So 2200 radius. I am going to create a sphere, and I will leave all other thing as it is with the same default setting. I will come into the view, click and click accept. As of now you are not seeing anything because the doom is very huge and the location is already set to 000, and in the viewport if I press F, now you can see the entire doom. The doom, the pivot point we have placed it to base. See, this is a doom from outside, this looks good. If we travel inside the doom, if I go inside, see the inner wall of the doom is not visible at all. You cannot see the inner wall. If I move back, I can see only the outer wall, but if I go inside, inner wall is not visible because the normal of this sphere is pointing outwards, and when I go in, you doesn't have normal here. No light gets reflected and we are seeing nothing. We have to create an inner wall. And to create this inner wall, we are going to create one more sphere. If you come into the dimensions and if you have a look, the inner diameter is 38 meters. That is 3800 centimeters. So I will come over here, and in radius I will type 3800 divided by 2, that is 1900, and I am going to click here, click accept, and then reset location and reset rotation, and you can see that you have this 38-meter diameter inner dome. So, if I come into the front view and show it to you, since base is the pivot point, so now this is not exactly present at the center. You need not worry, you can select both, and in our previous session in X form we had discussed about this align. So, I will come into align and choose bounding boxes, and along the Z, Y and X I align it exactly to the center. I want this internal dome to cut off this area of the external dome. I will first select the object A, which is the external dome, and with shift pressed I will select the object B, which is the internal zoom, which is sphere 2 here. Now, I will come into model, and we are now going to use this operation called Boolean. So, when I click on Boolean, now what happens is immediately you can see here the operation is A minus B. The inner sphere is B, it will be cut off from A, and I will leave all the option as it is. Here for the new object, I am going to call this as tomb, and then I click accept. If I come into the perspective view, and now if I right click, press W and move inside, now inside you can see the inner wall. See, this is the inner wall of our dome. Right now it is totally dark because there is no light, we have to add light. If I come into the unlit mode, you can see now, see this is the inner wall. So, now I can see the inner wall. So, I will press yes and I will move out. I will keep this back to late, and so we now have a sphere with both outer wall and inner wall. We want this sphere to be cut exactly at the center. I will just come into the front view, coming into model. Now, to cut it exactly at the center, you have a feature here called as plane cut. So, when I enable plane cut, half of my sphere is cut off by a plane. So, here if I come into the perspective view, I can show you, you are seeing a grid. This grid represents the plane, and whatever is above this plane is getting deleted. So, I can even move this. See, if I move it down, it is going to cut more, and if I move it up, see, I can cut the plane at which the sphere needs to be cut off. I will come into the front view. I want this to be cut on the bottom and top should be visible. So, for that, along the x axis, I will rotate this by 180 degree. See, here I have rotated it by 180 degree, and then I am going to move it down to actually 2200 to be exactly at the center. You have one fill out hole is on. So, keep this on and click accept. If I come into the perspective view and if I show it to you, so right now I will just press Q and come down, and you can see how the bottom portion is cut off. To see it better, I will come into this lit wireframe, so that now you can see this better. Coming into our reference image, from this dome, you are seeing here about 10 meters of wall coming down. See, if you come into this directly here, mesh polygroups face, I can directly select this. Either I can select it here, or I can go to polygroup edit, and in the selection filter with face enabled, I can select it here. Anyway, you can select it. Then I can come into the front view, and in the front view, if I select this and if I try to pull it directly, you can see the shape of my dome is changing. So, I will go to edit and choose undo, and to pull it down I have to use extrude. I will click extrude, and here when I extrude it, I am going to select fixed, and I am going to pull it down by a distance of 1000 centimeter, which is nothing but 10 meters, and click accept action. If I come into the perspective view, I have to click accept here, and now if I deselect and if I come here to lit, and if I press yes, if I press E and move up, and if I press S and move down, see my doom is now ready. If you come into the reference image, actually here it is not visible from this angle. In this doom, in this 10-meter distance, there are windows for people to watch the doom, and these windows are placed all around the doom, and this window size is, it is around 2 meter in width and 4 meter in height, and it is at a height of around 1 meter. So now I have to now cut those windows here. Later on we can place the windows. I need a hole here to be cut. If you are in this polygroup selection mode, click here to disable mesh element, select the entire, come into model, and this time we are going to use another feature here called as polycut. Now when you enable this polycut, what happens is, as of now when I enable this, if I just right click, press E and come up, and if I show it to you, you can see a hole has been cut at the top. Means a polycut means a particular shape will be cut from top to bottom, and now I doesn't want this to cut at the top, I want this to cut at side. So if I press Q and come down, I want this cut to come here. So I will now select this, and along the x axis I will rotate it by 90 degree, and now you can see the hole is here. See, I can move it up and down, and you can see the hole position here. And right now instead of this hole, I can come here and I am going to choose rectangle, and the size of my rectangle is, I want a width of 200 and a height of 400. And once I set this, I have this, and I will move it down, and from this position it should be 1 meter above. So I will come to delta mode, I will off it and on it so that this becomes 0. I will type 100 for 1 meter. So when I type, now I got this window, and if I click accept and if I press S and come down and show it to you. So now you have this hole both this side and also on the other side. See, I will just fasten the camera movement, and see, you have the hole on this side also and also on this side. However, in this case I have to create some 24 holes like this throughout. So this will be a tedious process if I start cutting it using this polycut. So I will come to edit, and I am going to undo this, and to cut this, now I am going to come into my create menu box, and in box, choosing dynamic mesh, I will create a box whose width is around 200 and height is 400, and depth you can give anything. Say for example, I will give around 1000 depth, and I am going to now create this object here somewhere, click accept, and I am going to set its location to the center. So now I have this object placed at the center. So temporarily I will switch off the tomb, and now I have it at the center. I have this piece, but I want this piece to be present all around this tomb. So to create this, we are going to use the pattern which we had discussed it in our previous session. So I will come and switch off tomb now. I will come into the XForm mode, and I am going to select this pattern. So when I select pattern, by default 10 pieces of this box are placed one next to each other in a line. I can choose x axis, y axis or z axis, any axis. However, for my purpose, I doesn't want this in a line, but I want it as a circle. And in this circle, I want this circle radius to be the radius of my tube, which is 2200. So, I will come here in the radius and I am going to type 2200, and only thing is these windows I need 24 windows. Come here and click accept to create this pattern. A pattern has been created. Now, I can select this box and I can delete it. I no more need it. I have a pattern here. I will come back to tomb now. Now, one thing here is when the tomb is selected, if I come into the front view, you can now see that when we created the tomb, its pivot point was at this line, and afterwards we drew it 10 meters down. However, we want the pivot point to be exactly to the base. So, we have to reset the pivot point here. So, with the tomb selected, I will come to XForm edit pivot, click on edit pivot, and this time I am going to choose bottom. When I choose bottom, it comes to the bottom here. I will click accept and then reset the position so that it is exactly at the origin point. Then I am going to select this pattern 0. I will now come into the perspective view. Now, only thing is this pattern 0, I need it at a height of 1 meter. The windows has to be placed at a height of 1 meter. So, I will move it along the x axis by 100 centimeter, which is nothing but 1 meter. Now, first I will select the doom, then with shift press I am going to select this pattern, and then I will come here into model Boolean, and now with difference AB enabled, if I click accept, you can immediately see that we have 24 windows cut all around our globe like this. And now I will come here, press F2 and rename my Boolean again as 2. One more issue is again the pivot point has changed. I have to come into XForm, click on edit pivot and choose bottom and then click accept. Now, go to file and choose save all. Now, coming back to our reference photograph, on the doom here you can see a pattern of this kind of design running all across the doom, and this we are going to create it now. I will come back to Unreal Engine. I will temporarily switch off the visibility of the tomb, and I will come here in the create and choose capsule, and in capsule I am going to select the output type again to dynamic mesh, and in radius I am going to set its radius to 30 and the length of this will be 200, and if I bring it here and if I click accept, I will then come here and reset the location to 0, 0, 0. Then I will press F. Now, this structure we have to get it converted into a arc like structure. So, for that come into the model and I will come here into the plane cut, and in plane cut I am going to turn this like this 90 degree, and I am going to turn this side, cut this capsule half, and I will click accept, and I doesn't need this bottom curve here. So, I will again come into plane cut and I am going to turn this 180 degree across the x axis. I will just drag it down till the point where this curve starts and click accept. So, here I will press G to hide the non-renderable objects, and here in this structure now, see, this is the design we have got. Now, in this I will next come here into this select mesh polygroups face mode, and I am going to select this face. I will just zoom a little and I will come into select and I am going to choose the option inset, and with inset drag it very little to create a border like this. So, I got a border like this, and then I am going to choose this push pull and I am going to pull it back till it almost cuts. I will take till here, it just appears. I got this shape. I will come into insert loops and I am going to insert some loops here. So, I will come into E1 and I will insert some 20 loops here and also 20 loops here. The reason why I inserted the loop is, now I want this entire structure to be slightly bent. If you see the reference here, you can see this structure is bent. So, to create this bend, I have added more geometry. I will click accept. I will come here, press F2 and I am going to call this as arc underscore pattern. I will retain this as it is. We need this later. Press Alt and drag it to create a duplicate. Now, I will select the duplicate. I will switch off this arc underscore pattern original and I am going to call this duplicate as arc underscore pattern bend. I will set its location back to 0, 0, 0. I will come into deform here and I am going to choose the feature warp. So, once I enable warp, I am going to choose the operation bend, because if you see in this drawing, this pattern is slightly bent like this and I have to create that bend here. However, when it is bending, I does not want the bottom area to bend. So, I will come here and enable lock bottom and then I will set a bend of around 35 degree. So, 35 degree bend is enough. So, I can even adjust the bend here by moving this upper bound and lower bound. So, here if I move the lower bound, see, I will move it little to the top like this. I will move it to around minus 60 and this I will set it to 110 and I will click accept. I have one pattern of my arc ready. I will enable tomb and I want this arc to come all around my tomb. So, for that, with this arc pattern bend selected, I will now come into X form and I will again use this pattern. So, when I click on pattern, you can first see it is creating a pattern in line. So, if I switch off tomb, you can see that it has created a 10 count pattern like this. However, I need this pattern in circular shape. So, in shape, I am going to select circle. You can see I have chosen circle and then I will also come here and instead of by count, I will change it to packed. And you can see here the orientation, it is bending all along the path. So, I does not want this orientation, I want all these pattern to be turned outside. So, for that I will switch off the orientation. Now, the problem we have here is, if you come into the top view, see this is bent in this angle, but I want this to bend along the z axis. I will rotate it by minus 90 degree and I will also enable bake transform. So, then I will click accept. So, this is the default rotation. Now, after setting the rotation right, now I will come into X form pattern and now you can see this is correctly oriented. So, now the orientation is perfect. Now, only thing is I want this radius to be equal to the radius of my tomb, which is 2200, 2200. I will type 2200 and now if I come here and enable the tomb, you can now see the pattern here. Only thing is, now I have to, once I am happy with the pattern, I will just press see the pattern is perfect. I will click accept and only thing now is I have to move the pattern to the top at this point. We have got this beautiful pattern running all around our dome like this. I can increase the size a little more. So, for this now I cannot go back and change the pattern. So, what I will do is I will come here and along the scale I will scale it up by around 1.1, 1.1 is too much, 1.05, and I will just check it. So, I will just zoom and come. So, there is a little gap here. So, I will make it 1.01. Okay, 1.01 is fine. See, 1.01 is fine. So, I have just scaled it a little like this. So, now this is sitting perfectly right. I will press E, come to the top and see it once. Now, I will select this and I will bake the transform, so that this will be the default 1 value. Okay, so now we have successfully created this pattern all around the tomb now. And one last thing that we want to create here is, if you come into the image, on the top you can see a kind of kalash like structure present on the top. So, this is what we have to design, and for that I will come back here, and as a reference the size of this will be, I will come into create box and I am going to give it a width of about 1 meter, 100 centimeter, and the depth also 100 centimeter, and height will be 1000 centimeter. So, I will create a box of this size, and then I will click accept and I will reset its location and rotation. I will temporarily switch off tomb, and now I have to come into the top view. So, do not forget, you have to make this design in the top view. So, I will select this box here, and I am going to now rotate along the y axis by 90 degree, and this is the reference size I have, and with this reference size I will choose this draw spline, and I am going to draw a spline shape. So, I am going to start by clicking here, then I will click another point here and I will drag it a shape like this. Then I will click one more point somewhere here and I am going to drag it like this. Then I will come here somewhere and I am going to click and drag a point like this. Then I will come here and somewhere here at this point and I am going to add this. Then I will click accept. I will select this point and adjust this angle a little so that this plate is correctly placed here, and I will retune these splines so that my angle is correctly set. So, once I have set this spline, now I am going to select this spline and place it exactly on this red y axis. I will delete this box now, and selecting this spline, I will come here and choose revolve spline, and as soon as I click revolve spline, you can see it has created a lofted object, and I am going to click accept. So, now once you will have this revolve spline new dynamic mesh created, I will press F2 and I am going to call this as top underscore 2. And only thing is, now I am in the top view, I will reset the location to 0, 0, 0. I will come into the front view to see the rotation. So, I have to rotate it, should be minus 90 degree here. So, I will rotate it by minus 90 degree, and then I will switch on the tomb now, and I will select this shape and drag it and place it over the tomb structure like this. So, it will be placed on the top like this. So, now if I come into the perspective view, so now you have this structure placed on the top. I will just place it on the top like this. So, now I will go to file and choose save all, Golgombus, and I am going to create a new folder and I will call this as atmosphere, and I will drag this sky atmosphere, skylight and exponential height, direction light and volumetric cloud. these 5 I will drag it and put it into this atmosphere folder. I will select it and press F. So, this is one pattern, actually just I will name it as F2 arc, and this one I will name it as F2 arc underscore bent. This spline actor is no more needed, I will delete it. I have the tomb, top tomb, so we have all the structure. I will come here and in visibility I will choose show all actors, and now you can now see our entire tomb structure is ready. Okay, now I will go to file and choose save all. And now with this we are going to conclude this session, and we have successfully created the tomb or the dome of our Golgombus, and as we created it we have explored all the features of this model module. So, we are left with trim and mirror. Trim, mirror and the next mesh module components we are going to explore it in our next session. Thank you.